What's up, guys? Based on Cinema, back at it again. We have Speak No Evil from this year. A family is invited to spend a whole weekend in a lonely home in the countryside, but as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them. I'm Jacob,
I'm Nick.
and I'm very excited for this one because I really enjoyed this film. It was definitely a good refresher coming off of Crimes of the Future, which was quite hefty. If you are interested in Crimes of the Future at all, check out our review. We also have a bunch of shorts posted on YouTube as well. Check those out. And I'm a huge fan of James McAvoy. I think he's phenomenal. He's really up there with a lot of modern actors, in my opinion. Whenever he's in these type of roles, he just shines. Even like in a movie like Split, which was really, when it came to my movie watching maturity, I remember him very specifically from Split. And he was in a bunch of other stuff like X-Men. But McAvoy is just a great actor, and he thrives in these films. And I can't wait to watch him again. The director of this movie, James Watkins, has done a bunch. He's done Speak No Evil. He did a movie called McMafia. He did an episode of Black Mirror. He actually did the episode called... What was it called? It was like something with the DJ... Man, what was that one called? But essentially, he did my favorite Black Mirror episode, which is essentially about this dude he essentially gets a virus on his computer, and then the episode kind of progresses with him insinuating that he went ahead and watched some porn and then pleased himself, and then eventually we find out at the end of the episode that it was child porn, and he was going through all of this whole adventure trying to go through these tasks and these challenges by this hacker. And the whole episode is just awesome. So I knew coming into this it was going to be quite interesting because he's done some stuff that I've seen. He also did a movie called Eden Lake, which I've been wanting to watch. Nick, have you seen Eden Lake?
I don't think I have.
I think you've watched some Black Mirror too, right? I think you might have
I've
seen
watched
that
like
episode
a
too.
few episodes of Black Mirror. I haven't really like binged any of it, but I've seen like here and there. Like the one I remember most is I think the Anthony Mackie one with the video games,
All right. Yeah.
and that was like
That was a good one.
what's I was like what the fuck?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I've seen Eden. It's called Eden Lake.
Eden Lake is the movie, yeah.
Mm, I have not, but I've heard of it. I've heard of it.
Yeah. It looks good.
I heard it has one of the most like shocking endings, and not even because of like what like it's like a like anything like Terrifier kind of shocking. It's just like the way it just ends.
Right.
It's just what it's known for apparently.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think me and my dad are gonna watch it soon, but I can't remember the episode of the episode name that I've been thinking about, and I'm not gonna search for it too hard here. But the director himself has done only 7 movies thus far. Again, Speak No Evil being one of them. I'm sorry, 6 technically, because he did the Black Mirror episode. He did a movie called The Take, The Woman in Black. He did, which I haven't seen that yet. I think you've seen that, right? Woman in
Which
Black.
one? One in Black. Yep.
Oh, how was that?
Interactive. That was fun. It
Yeah.
was fun. It was interesting. Interesting. Not
Okay.
your conventional ghost horror movie, but it was good.
Okay.
It was a little different. It was different.
Different's good sometimes. James McAvoy. It was in the Book of Clarence. He played Pontius Pilate. I actually kind of want to watch that. It looks interesting. He did a couple TV series. He was in The Sandman, his Dark Materials. But he did a movie called Together, which is based on it's basically a couple, and they're kind of going through it during COVID, and it kind of shows their relationship as it unfolds and how they work through it. He was in It Chapter 2. He was in X-Men Dark Phoenix. He was in Glass. Deadpool 2. Uncredited. Atomic Blonde. Split, like I said. X-Men Apocalypse. Victor Frankenstein. He was in a Muppets movie. The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby. This guy's done a lot. And I can't wait to see what else he does. He's in the Chronicles of Narnia. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, right? It was a while ago.
How many has he done total?
How many movies has he done total? Well, this is TV shows included, and that's 65. And he has
Mm,
3 upcoming works that are in production.
sick.
Next, we have Mackenzie Davis. She played Ben's wife. She's been in a little bit as well. Terminator Dark Fate. She did a couple video
That's what I
games.
remember her for
Yeah?
from Terminator. She was the Terminator. She was one of the Terminators.
Okay. I haven't actually watched all of them. I only saw T1. I haven't seen any of the Terminator movies.
You haven't seen T2?
Nope. Okay, okay.
If people watch this far in and they hear that, they're gonna like swarm the comments.
Good.
They're gonna frenzy.
I want to hear
They're
it.
gonna frenzy. I want them to, cause dude, that's insane. You haven't seen T2?
I have not seen T2.
That hurts.
My apologies.
Oh my god. It's like one of the movies.
I know.
The movies.
I
Oh
know.
man. Fuck.
I'm gonna
Okay.
watch it eventually because I watched T1. I'm gonna watch all of them just like I watched all the Aliens. I have 2 movies of Predator left, and I'm probably gonna do T. Actually, I'm gonna do Blade Runner first because apparently it's in the same universe as Predator and Alien. I might as well just watch it because I've been wanting to watch Blade Runner 2049, which she is actually, and she's in Blade Runner 2049.
She is.
Yeah, but there is
T2.
some like idiosyncrasies with Blade Runner being in the same universe as Alien and Predator.
Seriously?
Yeah. I was looking into the universe just out of curiosity, and it is like, it isn't like officially part of the universe, but it's talked about a lot.
Some like it's like a fan theorized.
In a sense, like you gotta like look into it a little bit to get a grasp on like what I'm saying because it's a little complicated. And it's been a while since I looked into it, but there's stuff out there to support those claims. She was also in The Martian. She's been in quite a bit too. Not too much.
The Turning.
Turning.
The Turning. I saw that in theaters.
Okay.
Sucked.
And she has a couple things coming out right
Sucked
now.
so bad.
Then we have Scott McNairy. He played Ben.
Not her fault.
He was in Invincible, the animated show. He was King Lizard. He
He's
was
in
in
BVS.
He is in
I
BVS,
think
you're
he's
right.
the dude without the legs.
Right. He was in Blonde, which is the Marilyn Monroe movie, which I
Gone
thought
Girl.
was okay. He was in A Quiet Place Part 2. He's in a couple TV series like True Detective. A couple music videos. He was in Fargo. Yep.
Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Lamb.
Fargo.
He was in Lamb.
He's in Lamb?
Mm-hmm.
What is this?
He was in the TV show Fargo.
Oh shit, okay.
He's in Gone
He was in
Girl.
that movie called Come On, Come On.
Come On, Come On. Is that with Joaquin Phoenix?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to see that too. Val's been wanting me to watch that. He was in 12 Years a Slave. He's been in quite a bit, man. A lot of TV too. He's in some shorts.
He was in Herbie Fully Loaded.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We have Aisling Franciosi. Listen, man, I'm gonna butcher names, but she was in the recent stop motion. She was also in The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which was a fun Dracula movie.
I gotta watch that though.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. It's a fun movie. It's like a nice turn off your brain refresher. It's a good one time watch.
Ooh, The Nightingale. I heard about that.
Also in Game of Thrones. Nick, I don't think you've seen Game of Thrones at all.
What?
Have you seen Game of Thrones?
The show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What do
I
you?
watched all the way till like the final season, and I was like, "Fuck this," and I stopped watching it.
Yeah. You just gotta finish it, like the rest of us who got our hearts broken
No,
and felt
I
betrayed.
just watched. I watched the bullet points from that point forward.
Uh-huh.
So all the high points of the show and all the. I was like, okay, so that's what happens. Fuck this shit. Glad I didn't finish it.
I'm so tempted to rewatch it, but the payoff is just not there. But like so much of like the first 3 seasons were so good.
I would stop after the 7th.
So much was so good.
Dude, she did a movie called The Nightingale, which I heard about. I wanted to watch with you a while back. I think I wanted to watch it with you and your dad a while back, but we never got to it. But it's It looks good from
Okay.
the trailers that I've seen. It looks really good.
I'd be down to watch it.
Oof.
All right, so let's get into the film a little bit. All right. So I mean, this movie isn't too deep, but it does have some deep elements that are very relatable to modern society. But just kind of go through my notes very quickly here, and we'll just talk about what we want to talk about. So the contrast between the two families begin when they're in Italy on vacation. Patty, McAvoy's character, asks for Ben's lounge chair, asks him if it's being used. Ben says no, and he just drags it away. And this kind of starts to show their personalities a little bit. Patty just takes what he wants in a sense, drags it away, and Ben's just kind of like off looking, kind of like a little teddy bear in my opinion. And it's, man, I disliked Ben so much, and I will get into that. No problem. Don't worry. Patty also begins to hunt his prey, driving around Agnes on his scooter, being hospitable and attractive and fun to Ben and Louise, keeping themselves in the mind of Ben and Louise even as they go home. He's really just planting the seeds for future interaction.
Mm.
In my opinion, the switching of the general starts to appear here when Louise is more hesitant than Ben when pondering to go to Patty's house. Ben is in a sense trying to stay cool, calm, and collected throughout this film, but at the same time acts pretty illogical at the same time. And then Louise really is the one who feels the most uncomfortable and is like, yeah, I'm seeing red flags a bunch, and I don't even think we should go. And eventually they go. And this is not an uncommon theme throughout this movie. It just keeps happening over and over. And it kind of gets a little repetitive and annoying. But, after watching the film and thinking about it, I feel, I start to understand Ben and his wife's roles a little more. And I start to understand why it was put into place so much. And it does kind of have like a realistic element to it. We start to see a conversation between Louise and Ben, and they have kind of one of their first real arguments. It's revealed that Louise has had explicit messages with another guy. It was a guy from Agnes's school. The man is sending her private pictures of himself. And it goes to show that Ben is not doing enough as a man to satisfy Louise's needs and wants. She's obviously looking for other ways to get what she wants. Ben's got to step his game up.
I think it was a teacher.
Was it a teacher?
I think it was one of the school teachers, yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a parent, but either or. And the mood is off once they get to Patty's house. They decide to go, and Louise is already a little sus. Ben and Louise begin to see that Patty's normal life is different from their own known normal life. They have a VHS TV with no cable. They have a landline, and it's very secluded, very isolated, and they're just kind of in the middle of nowhere with no cell service. They haven't properly replaced sheets, as there's a stain in Ben and Louise's sheets. Louise is still actually unnerved while Ben ignores red flags and is in a sense intimidated by Patty's presence, himself being unemployed and not being fulfilling towards Louise. And you can kind of see it like written all over Ben's face, in my opinion. Like throughout the movie, Ben just looks like a little puppy dog. And you can see he's just upset with the fact he can't get a job, upset with the fact that he can't, meet Louise's needs, and just not being a good husband. He tries, but of course there's more to marriage than just, taking care of the kids, taking care of the wife. There's a lot more to it that we're not seeing. Aunt misbehaves and Patty snaps just a little bit. And we see Louise getting a little bit more weary, a little bit more hesitant, and wants to leave. At the fancy dinner, they go out for dinner. Aunt and Agnes is left with the babysitter, who is kind of a little sus on his own. I had some weird feelings about that babysitter when I first saw him.
Yeah, he was weird.
They start talking about their sex lives. Patty basically starts to break Ben's balls a little, and they discuss how their sex lives actually are. Patty states that him and Sierra roleplay. They, quote, eat out. And obviously they're a little promiscuous and polyamorous. Is that the word for it? Polygamous? Basically when you go and sleep with other people.
Mhm. Wingers.
swingers essentially, uh, and it's revealed that Luis and Ben haven't had relations in months. And it kind of, even like when Luis talks about their sex life, she's just kind of blowing Ben off, and Ben, you can see his ego is kind of hurt a little bit. He's like, "What the hell? Like, why are you sharing that very sensitive information?" And like, I don't feel emasculated by these facts, and you're just letting it rip in front of these practically strangers. And he's already intimidated by Patty, and now his ego is just lowered even more. All right, so then Patty and Sarah pretend to have fellatio under the tablecloth. Ben looks awkward and uncomfortable when this is going on. And, I mean, as a viewer, you're a bit uncomfortable as well because you're watching these two people just having fellatio under the tablecloth. And it's like, all right, they're just being weird, and it's in front of these two other people. But the thing is, Luis actually kind of looks a little intrigued, in my opinion.
I got the opposite.
She was just like looking at them with her like jaw dropped.
I got the opposite when I saw that, because for me it looked like Ben was more like, why can't I get some of this kind of loving? And on the other hand, Luis was the one who looked uncomfortable and kind of like, why is this happening?
Mm-hmm. Maybe it was a little bit of both.
Could have been.
Because Luis like couldn't stop staring. She just
I think she was more like, because she's more of a. For me, it was like she was the one who was holding back a lot, from a lot of things.
Right.
And like she was bragging how she doesn't give out to Ben's character for periods. So for me, it was like Ben's over here like, damn, that's nice, like get some of that, and then she was here like, why is this happening at dinner? What the fuck? This is weird.
You could be right. But just like looking back at the film, it's been a while. It's been about a week and a half since I've seen it. I got the opposite of what Nick's saying. But it could be both, or it's they just both were uncomfortable and weirded out.
Two different perspectives.
It's just why we got two of us based on cinema.
That's how we do that.
It's also discovered that Patty and Sarah have been together for, I think it was 17 years, I think they said. And Ben and his wife were like, wouldn't you be a little young? And I forget Sierra's age in the movie, but she could have been very, very young when Patty and her started to quote-unquote date and be together. And we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that.
Luis, the one who looks at Ben and says, "So how old was she when they met?" And Ben just goes, "No, she's not right now. Not right now."
Right.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Patty mentions the bill, and it's how hefty the number is. He's like, well, this is a good price for good food, essentially. Ben's like, oh, I'll cover it. And Patty's like, okay, no problem. And then just leaves, and he's like, okay, I'll be at the car. And Patty...
It's so much more, like, blunt than that. It's just, like, just looks at the bill, and he goes... Then Ben just looks over and goes, Pat. And then before he can even finish, Pat goes, oh, thanks, Ben. Walks out, leaves the bill with Ben.
Yep. And Ben's just like, But it shows that Patty is just being very assertive, kind of like showing his dominance. Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then he just gets up and leaves. He's constantly taking advantage of them in a sense.
Hell yeah.
Aunt and Agnes play hide and seek with the babysitter, and Aunt shows Agnes his dad's watch. The whole collection, really, but one watch in particular, showing with writing that is not English. He then shows his scars and bruises on his body, so we get an insinuated hint that Aunt is being abused, and for whatever reason, we're getting this watch shown to us with writing on it that is not English. It's a nice watch collection, too. Patty played...
Spiffy.
Huh?
Pretty spiffy.
It is spiffy. So, Aunt basically... He's constantly emotional throughout the film, and Patty just plays it off with it being Aunt's condition. At one point, the families go on a trip together up in the land in the fields. They make fire. They gather some. It looks like I can't remember, but I think they were gathering some flowers and fruits,
like berries
and stuff. Yeah. Then they swim, and then we discover that Aunt can't swim, and I think Patty was like, "Oh, he'll learn." I forgot what he said. He'll learn the way I learned He's like, I thought, what did he say? Like, live or die, or he was
Sink or
like,
swim, shit like that.
sink
Yeah.
or swim. Yes, yeah,
He'll be fine.
he'll be fine. Eventually, he grabs him, and we also see scars and bruises on Sierra, just like we saw on Ant. So it's like, well, is she being abused too?
Mm.
Late at night, Louise finds Agnes and Ant and Patty in Sierra's bed, pushing her over the edge, making her pack up her stuff immediately, telling Ben that they are leaving. They leave in the wee hours of the morning until Agnes realizes that she forgot her stuffed animal at the house, which is basically her emotional support stuffed animal, and she has severe anxiety without it. And they decide to go back. Ben goes in, then Louise goes in, then Agnes goes in, and then they find Patty and his wife, and they're essentially just asked, like, well, we deserve an explanation because you guys left without saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Ben can't get the words out.
Ben can get the words out, so essentially his wife just takes control and addresses very bluntly why they left and how uncomfortable they were. And Patty and his wife essentially lie their way through it, saying, well, yeah, they might have had a miscarriage, but they said they have a miscarriage and it was a daughter, and they wanted to nurture Agnes like the daughter they never had. They heard that she was crying in her bed with ants, and they just took her to bed, and that's when we see them asleep. And they feel for them, and it's like, okay, we'll stay. And I feel like any normal person would have been like, well, I don't care. That's sad and all, but I am not gonna stay.
Eat my kid out your bed, you freaks.
Yeah. At one point as well, I couldn't get the chronology correct, but Ben and his wife have an argument, and I think it was really about the cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Patty takes Ben out to an isolated place, and Patty shows Ben how to scream out his emotions, and I think he says, like a wolf. I think you remember.
I don't remember that.
I think my dad said like a wolf, but he could have just been riffing. But it goes to show that shows Patty's animalistic side or primal side of things. He's literally screaming like a wild animal.
Yeah.
And aids Ben along with him. And really, he's just, in a sense, he's like kind of like helping him, but also playing with his food. That's kind of what I got from it. So it's kind of like a wholesome moment, but at the same time, it's like he's kind of playing with his food at the same time.
He literally says, like, he talks about the hunt with him.
Right. Like, about the hunt. Like, it's not about getting the kill, it's about getting the hunt. And this is while they were hunting. I remember that now. So, foreshadowing. So then they go out to have lunch, and everybody's drinking. Ant and Agnes have a dance routine to Cotton Eye Joe. Patty grows very angry with Ant. Yeah, he has no rhythm. And angrily belittles Ant and sends him to his room. Patty, too drunk.
Shit at him, too.
Yeah, just like threw shit at him and like moved his legs up and down.
It's like, come on!
Patty, too drunk, cools down with a nap. And like at this point, Louise and Ben are like, oh yeah, this is when they're at the table and like and Sierra's trying to like parent their daughter. It's like, yeah, don't parent my kids. And she just kept going and going and going. And obviously, that it's very relatable because imagine like going to somebody's house and they're just trying to parent your kid just over and over and over again with like succession. And it leaves you a little uncomfortable. I think that's one thing that this film did really well is making you feel uncomfortable with the situations in which they're in. You're watching a movie and you could feel what they're feeling, but you really feel uncomfortable with them when all these things are going on. Not just this particular situation, but also in different parts of the film. You just kind of get very uneasy and queasy with the family. Ant then steals Patty's keys and takes Agnes to the cellar, revealing clothes, items, belongings to other people, postcard invitations like the one Ben and Louise got, other stuffed animals, and as well as a photo album that is shown with other families on vacation with Patty and Sierra, along with pictures of families at Patty and Sarah's house. And at the end of the book, we see one open page that is awaiting Ben and his family's picture. We also
One
see
of the photos had I think you're getting to this now.
Yep.
Had Aunt's family and him in it,
Right.
and that was like the holy fuck moment for the, I think for most people, hopefully in the audience, because it was for me a little bit. I was kind of like, oh shit,
Right. Because you see
because I'm
the
like, oh, this
extent
kid's,
of it.
yeah, because you never knew whether this kid was theirs or not, or what the situation was regarding Aunt, but that, I feel like that is the plot twist for this version of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into the plot twist for the other one at the end of this, but that took me out for a second. I was like, holy shit. Not in a bad way, but I was like, holy shit. I was like, fuck. Like, they're gonna do this
Yeah.
to the girl.
Yeah. And that is a different. That is a difference between this film and the original. I've yet to watch the original. I think me and Nick might to review on it. I'd be down. I'm gonna watch it this week for sure, and
Yep.
keep you guys posted with that for sure. And then we see the picture of Ant's and his family, and you see his father has the same watch that he showed Agnes earlier. So like, oh shit, he's obviously trying to show Agnes and trying to give her clues, and he can't talk obviously. And he also tries to write on a piece of paper, and then once I think it was Sierra walked up and he put the paper in his mouth
Eat it.
and ate it. And again, it looks like gibberish, but it kind of looks like English. And I'll get into this, into what it actually is later.
A foreign language.
Right. And in the picture, Ant is sticking out his tongue. And my first impression was like, wow, okay, Patty cut out his tongue because he saw the picture and was like, oh, that was disrespectful. I'm going to teach you a lesson. But also, it's probably because he doesn't want Ant saying anything at all.
Yep.
You know, so I think it's a little bit of both, but probably mostly because he doesn't want Ant to say anything. Agnes then takes pictures of the book for proof. Agnes then takes her period, which was very smart. I was actually impressed with that. I mean, I was like, wow, that's one hell of a way to seem natural and to naturally get your mother, you know, isolated apart, away from the situation.
That was really smart.
Really smart on her part. I was actually impressed by the character. And she was like, "Oh, she get cut?" It's like, no, that's not what's happening, Ben. That's not what's happening. So she takes her mom to the bathroom. Yeah, no. Shows her the pictures, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go get your father." So he goes in, and they reveal the truth. They see the pictures. They start to freak out, and they start to plan their escape plan. What's her name? I keep forgetting her name. Ben's wife.
Louise?
Louise grabs a box cutter. That'll be used later. And Aunt goes to put the keys back on Patty, but Patty's awake and sitting down. So you're thinking, oh, crap, Aunt is screwed.
Mm-hmm.
He then asks Aunt to show him. And, you know, as an audience, you're thinking, well, he has something behind his back. It's kind of obvious he wants him to give him what's behind his back. But he instead, he kind of outreaches his arms, and Aunt knows what that means and goes and gives him a hug. And it gives him love. He wants him to show him love. And it kind of shows an element to McAvoy's character that perhaps he never really had a lot of love in his life. Perhaps from a father or anybody else in his life. Mother, and he wants love to be shown to him and given to him, and he wants to feel love. And I like that scene. I do. And he asks for a piggyback ride, clips the keys on his back very, very fluidly. Good job by Aunt. And that's one thing too I like about this movie is the kids in this movie do a good job in their performances, not just acting, but actually how they're written and how the story's written. It makes it believable. And it doesn't seem that far-fetched. It's slick. It works. It's not over. It's not like an overshot. It's not done in a sense where it's like, oh, that's not believable. Because it is kind of believable.
They're not the fucking spy kids. They're just kids with common sense.
Right. And some smarts.
Like, you didn't see this in Halloween 2018 with the kid with the gun when he got his neck snapped by Michael Myers. No.
There's so many things in those movies that make me just raise my arms up in the air.
What the fuck?
Patty notices the cellar was used, and you're like, okay, well, here we go. Here comes the third act. They use Agnes's period to leave, and before this, Lewis Louise grabs a box cutter, like I said before. Patty catches on and slashes the Tesla's tires, leaves Agnes's stuffed animal on a gutter, making Ben get it on a ladder while he holds it. And this is a pretty good scene because you're wondering, like, when is stuff going to go haywire? You know something's about to happen. And you're like, well, he's letting them leave. What's happening? Eventually, he gets the teddy bear, whatever it was, down from the gutter. Patty is holding the ladder, so you're like, is he just going to, like, wipe off the ladder from underneath him? Let them fall and die. And literally fixes the tire, lets them drive away until he pushes Ant in the water. They know he can't swim, so they reverse back. Ben dives in, does the only heroic thing he does throughout the whole movie, and saves pretty much. Like,
I did one other thing, but it didn't go well.
Right. Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, there's one successful thing, and acts as the hero and saves Ant from the water. And that's when stuff starts to go down. They drive back. Patty closes the gate. And when they capture... when captured by Ben, he asks why Patty is doing this, and Patty says it's because they let them. And this just adds to Patty's game and the hunt. He likes the hunt. He doesn't... it doesn't really matter about the kill, but as long as... he just really is satisfied with the hunt, and he's like, well, you let us do this in the first place. So, and I think another element to that is, well, you guys had enough chances to leave. You guys probably got signs beforehand. We literally lied to your face about us having a fake daughter. Again, maybe it was real, that whole element, maybe it was legitimate. And I mean, throughout the movie, you're constantly questioning the reality of the situation, especially with Sierra and Patty's lives. But yeah. Then you kind of get into a conversation with Patty talking about his parents. I think it was his father specifically. Nick, you could help me here if I say anything wrong. But essentially goes to talk about how he really wasn't shown affection, and he did not have very loving parents. They were abusive, and he said something around the lines of, you either become like your parents or you grow to become nothing like them, and insinuates that his life as a child was not good. And
and he also said the parents fuck you up.
Right, that's what he said. He said parents F you up. That's right, he did say that. So obviously you can see where he's coming from and how his childhood life was, and we start to see the cracks in his structure. Louise slashes him in the face with a box cutter. Agnes grabs a needle that puts one into incapacitation, which knocked him out. And Louise manages to get the gun from Sierra. Sierra pleads with Louise to take her with them, saying that she was one of Patty's first victims. And at first you're like, oh, this is BS.
Wait.
But
Agnes doesn't use the needle till the end.
I said she grabbed the needle. Agnes grabs the needle.
Because it sounded like you said she used it.
No, she grabs the needle, and what was in the needle was used on them to get them there in the first place, essentially. They tie them up, and they put them on there. I think everybody got hit with the needle, or they were just tied up. I can't remember.
They were just, like, forced and tied up. That was it. Yeah.
Right, okay. But there was the needle, but essentially, I think it was either to, like, paralyze them.
I think put them to sleep a little bit.
Just to incapacitate them, essentially. Yeah, to make them drowsy. Yeah. And like I was saying, Sierra pleads with Louise to take her with them, stating that she was one of Patty's first victims. And at first you're like, well, she's BSing. She's lying. They've been lying for years. But then you look back at the previous scene when they're at dinner, and you realize that actually could be a fact. Like, she could be actually one of the first victims. Could have been actually Agnes's age. And it kind of goes, you kind of put the pieces together, like, well, then Patty once said when she had her period, Agnes had her period, she's like, oh, we're a woman now, and is kind of saying in a very unsettling way. And it goes to show that Sierra could have been his first victim, could have been fertile, and, just kind of took upon her as his lover / wife, and then manipulated her into his own ways. It kind of adds a level of depravity that you're more shocked by. And she's a part of this now. Um, yada yada yada. When they escape to leave, the chef shows up to stop them shooting at them. They then lock themselves in the house, and Sierra is thrown from the. Okay, there's also. I just want to say because it was hilarious. There's the part when him and Ben are driving in the car. I think it was on the way back or the way to the field to go hunt.
Yeah.
And they're singing this. What song was it? Do you remember?
Eternal Flame.
Eternal Flame, which was hilarious. Good to see James McAvoy like singing that in his car, and he's looking over like at like Ben, while he's singing.
Ben's
like,
just there like
Ben just
for the
like
drive, and James is over here like feeling that shit, dude. He's like, "You feel that, Ben?
yeah,
You fucking feel that shit?"
yeah. He's like looking at Ben, and Ben's just like awkward, like.
It's like, what?
And James is just acting his ass off. And then, like, when they're finally trapped inside the house, Patty, James McAvoy's character, just blasts the song from his car, and he's, like, singing it out loud. He's, like, it just shows how, psychotic he is, but it was hilarious to see. And
Great.
it just highlights McAvoy for me. It's just everything that I really like from McAvoy was just showcased by that alone. It's very vague, but it's hard to explain. Like that is like McAvoy's like crazy acting for this kind of character, and I loved it.
It was so great because it's just Ben on the inside, like trying to like whatever weapon he had. I think it was the gun, maybe, just like up against a window, like trying to peek out and be like, "What the fuck is this psycho doing?" And meanwhile, McAvoy's character Patty is just outside, like on top of the car, screaming top of his lungs, "Do you feel my heart beating? Do you understand?"
Do you feel the same? And my mom was laughing because that's like one of her favorite songs ever.
Oh shit.
So like every time I hear the song now, I'm gonna think of her and the movie. And every time she's gonna hear the song, she's gonna think of the movie. But it's pretty funny because my mom never goes out to the movie theater, and we finally got her to go.
Nice.
And she's laughing throughout the entire when the song's playing because like it's one of her favorite songs. I just thought it was
That's awesome.
very humorous.
No, it was great.
And
We were dying during that.
Yeah, and then like when the chef shows up, he's like, you guys gotta get yourself under control. Like I'm glad to help you, but like come on.
Why are you playing with your food?
Yeah. And it says he's like, you gotta stop. He's like, why are you playing with your food like this? He's like, just let's take care of this situation. So Ben is shaking like a lost puppy dog in the house, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And Louise,
like prices.
yeah, and Louise is taking control of the situation. She is smart enough to find chemicals that burn the skin. Patty forces himself through a door almost, and she just sprays this chemical up in his face and his eyes. And we see McAvoy and his wife's character. His character and his wife in the bathroom trying to wash it all off, and he's screaming his ass off. McAvoy once again acting phenomenally, and then
This is your fuck up. You go get him.
yeah. Then we start to see Ben gets the idea to use that. I forgot what proof alcohol it is, but it's almost like absinthe, maybe even like rubbing alcohol. It's so damn strong and very
150%, I think.
150 proof, right?
150 proof.
So he decides to get the bottle and make a Molotov cocktail. And one of my frustrating moments of the movie, he goes to throw the Molotov cocktail out the window with such weakness, it rolls off the roof. And if you ever seen any movie like with any sort of Molotov cocktail, you gotta throw that thing, man. You gotta throw it. You gotta throw it pretty hard. It's a bottle of glass, and you gotta break it for it to shatter and the flames can spread. The man practically rolls it out the window.
He went.
And it just shows how weak of a guy he is. But it's
off the roof.
It rolls off the roof. I think it lands on Patty's car and it sets a flame.
Yep.
And it's like insult to injury for Patty, but it shows the literal and metaphorical weakness and emasculinity of Ben. The guy throughout the movie is he practically doesn't have balls. He doesn't have reason. He is constantly going against his wife's intuition. He can't efficiently defend his family. And when it comes for the man to chuck a Molotov cocktail out the window, to break it, he practically just rolls it out the window. And again, that moment right there.
He actually dropped it because they got shot at. He drops it in the house first.
He drops it in the house first, right?
And it's rolling on the floor, and it's like, pick it up. Luis is over here, and he's like, okay, yeah. And he finally does it. That's where we get to that rolling off the roof onto the car.
It's just it's a huge pivotal part of showing what kind of character Ben is. And like I was saying, throughout the entire movie, you just see him as a demasculated man. His wife has the balls of the family. She's constantly, looking out for them, making the big boy decisions, in a sense. And, she's the one who's really taking initiative with everything. And Ben is the one who can't see straight, is the one who's sulking in his depressive feelings. He can't please his wife, he doesn't have a job, and everything is just spilling and spilling as the film progresses.
He's the one who killed basically everybody in this movie, too. She's the one who defended her family. And Ben unsuccessfully. Multiple times.
Yes. So Sierra is thrown from the roof by Luis. After they failed to throw the Molotov cocktail out the window, Luis is hiding from the other side of the window and throws her off the house. I think wasn't Ben going with the kids first out the window to go down?
They were trying to escape through the window. The ladder was still there, so Ben's like, "Let's go down the ladder." Then the ladder gets knocked. I forgot how. I think it's when they knocked Sierra out and she fell off. She knocked the ladder with.
Right. Yep.
She fell with the ladder.
Yep.
So Luis 1, Sierra 0, and then the ladder on the ground. Ben's dumbass is like, "No, I can still reach it. I can get down there and fix it." Mind you, that's a tall, 2-story roof. 3-story maybe. He fucking hangs from the gutter and then breaks his ankle. Then he finally gets up. He's like, "It's all good. It's all good. I'm fix it." Fixes the ladder, and then he does hold it for most of the way down, but. Oh,
my point of bringing that up is, I think when they were actually trying to go down the ladder, it was the kids and him, and she was hiding. And I think they might have known that she was going to break through eventually, which is why she was hiding behind the window in the first place, outside. But that should have been Ben.
They knew someone was coming. Yeah, it should have been him.
It should have been him. 100%. Women and children first.
Titanic rules. All
right, women and children go first, and Ben, the woman, goes down the ladder with the kids.
Ben was like, "I identify as both of those other things."
Yes, pretty much. There is quite literal a gender swap throughout this film.
It's kind of, realistically speaking, it's kind of just following every other horror movie survival, how do I say it? Path, I guess you could say, or route.
I know what you're getting at, yeah.
With the heroine on the final girl,
right.
That we get mostly every other movie, which is great. I'm not against it. I love that, but for this film, I feel like they did a disservice to Ben, because even with all the stuff that he was doing with Patty to try and become more of a man in a sense, and become that, to that, kind of a version of Patty that's not insane. It still didn't, all of that led to nothing in the end, because he still was same old Ben. Nothing changed with him.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I could tell. He did do things, but a lot of those things were just because he had to, not because he wanted to.
Yeah, for example, the chef gets in the house and he goes to kill Ben. They have a scuffle, and right before the chef is about to push Ben on a piece of glass, Luis comes out and hits him in the head with a hammer and kills him. once
He
again,
shoves the hammer into his skull.
yeah, his skull, and kills
Yeah.
him. And again, once again, she's the one doing the dirty work. And Ben was gonna lose his life, and couldn't, again defend his family.
Yeah,
And
Ben went to go get him, and then he just tripped.
yeah, I'm gonna get into this a little more at the end.
Oh my god.
So I'm gonna finish my notes. There's not a lot left, and then we'll get into that aspect of it.
Jeez. Like
Um,
it wasn't like T2. Oh, you wait.
yeah,
T1.
yeah.
It wasn't like T1 where you have was it Sarah Connor?
Hmm.
Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, I think his name was. And Kyle Reese is a fucking veteran. He's fought robots. He's fought cyborgs from the future. He's a soldier. He can handle himself, and he does. And then you have Sarah Connor, who's just a damsel in distress, and then she becomes a warrior through the film, throughout the third act and second third act of the film, and they're both on an equal level at that point. They're I think Kyle does get hurt. He does end up dying, possibly, but like they both hold their own. They're both able to balance that out. There's no one's better than the other, like any other thing like that. Um, Unlike this film, which is kind of strange if you think about it, because like that was the 80s when everyone's like, oh yeah, men in the were like the action heroes. It's all about men and the action heroes. But like I feel like back then, even maybe not as much actually, but like nowadays you see a lot more of like weaker men compared to women, and
Right.
like in film, and it's
Like back then,
like
you
we're
still had
missing.
women doing a good job and being the hero, but you're kind of
You
getting
didn't have
to
to downplay.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
it's kind of like
go ahead.
the Acolyte, and how for people who haven't seen it, like in Star Wars, it's very well known that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. Like he was created out of the Force. Like there wasn't a parent. It was like he was just created.
He's the Messiah
And
of the Star Wars universe.
yeah, even if he did turn bad, he did complete his arc fully in the
Yes.
end. But for those you don't know, and then with the Acolyte, they essentially said, nah, fuck Anakin Skywalker. He's not the only one who's ever done that. We're gonna create two people out of the Force because we can, because his story's stupid. And it's essentially having two characters do something that's already been done, and and then it just kind of downplays the importance and the reason the whole other thing was done, and they're not on that equal level. Like if you would have had something, they could have been cloned or used like some kind of
Yeah.
like something else, like, but to use the exact same thing, like the same way of creation as Anakin Skywalker, just completely downplays that whole character, that whole storyline, and what that author and that creator envisioned for this universe.
Yeah, like imagine they
But yeah,
somehow got their hands on the limbs of Anakin and then used his blood to clone or to take some of his midichlorian count and infuse it into others, like kind of like what Grievous did with like
yeah,
with Force users.
yeah. The only downside is that this takes 100+ years before all of that ever happens.
Yeah.
So, but because continuity doesn't matter, they could have just had Anakin appear somehow and taken his blood, because other characters who didn't exist appeared. It's fine.
Yeah,
Save that for another time.
I haven't watched any of it. I haven't looked into it because I already knew it was gonna be bad, so I can care
Don't
less.
don't let
Uh,
it ruin anything more for you.
yeah.
Back on track. Sorry.
So at the end of the film, Agnes pulls the needle from somewhere, and this is like one of the biggest things for me that I was questioning. Is like, where did Agnes put the needle? She had it the whole damn like third act of the movie, and I don't know if she hid it somewhere. You know,
I just want to know if there was like a lid on it, because there was a lid on
I
it.
didn't. Was there? Because I didn't see one when she picked
I
it
don't
up.
remember.
I don't think there
I don't
was,
remember.
but
I
somehow
want to
she
know.
had it the whole time. I don't know if it was like on her person the whole time, or I don't know if she put it down someplace and then got it again before she left the house. But she pulls the needle out from someplace, and that was the only thing that really got me. It was like, all right, that just came out of nowhere, and I don't remember seeing her with it for quite some time.
She picked it up, but we just never see her with it from that
Right,
point forward.
exactly.
But So I didn't have the same reaction, but like now looking back, I was like, how did you not stab yourself with that?
Right.
Like throughout this whole thing, I'm cool with her having it, but I don't remember if there was a cap on it, if there was anything else. I just knew that she had it, you know?
Yeah, I don't remember there being a cat, but I also don't remember her wielding it at all during that third half when she's running around in the house. So that
Mm-mm.
was one little bit of continuity that got to me. And she basically incapacitates Patty. And before he bludgeons Patty with a rock, he says, "That's my boy." And I'm going to get into this a little bit after I finish this point. But essentially here he's kind of, in a sense, repeating the cycle that he did with his father. That's kind of what I got from that. And then Ant bludgeons his face in to death. And
Before that though, before that happened, Ben gets the opportunity to do something he has not been able to do this entire film. Defend his family. End this guy's murderous rampage. He has a gun, shotgun, rifle, whatever the fuck it was. Aimed straight at his head. Ben's incapacitated. Patty's incapacitated. Still awake. Ben could literally just go double tap, boom, and just end it. Ben lowers his weapon and walks away. And then Ant, the little kid, comes up and does exactly what Jacob said and bludgeons Patty to death with a rock or a brick.
yeah,
So it's like,
nothing ends for Ben. Ben is the same person throughout the entire movie. He
no growth, really.
There's no
For him.
growth, which is fine because I'm gonna get into this now.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I got after watching the movie. Okay. On one hand, you have the and Patty gets into this a little bit by describing Ben's family. You people and your smartphones, your Teslas, you in this new technology. He's basically he's either in envy or he's just out of spite and disgust. He just is doing this against them because they're not worthy in his eyes. So you have one family who is in the modern world and affiliated with modern technology in modern times. They're not isolated. They're working people. They move around to work. As Ben's wife says, I moved to England with you when I didn't really want to.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a typical semi-wealthy family in a sense, working family who is quote unquote normal going throughout society. And in modern society, you have the taking away of masculinity within men, and they're becoming less manly in a lot of ways, showcased by Ben's actions and Ben's personality and Ben's character. And the woman is getting more masculine and taking upon more masculine roles, as we see Ben's wife doing throughout the movie, defending her family, doing the kills when Ben couldn't, saving Ben when he couldn't defend himself, making the decisions when to leave, identifying the red flags and going with her gut. Everything that Ben should have been doing, he wasn't. And that's a key point in this. On the other side, you have Patty's family, quote unquote. Patty is an isolationist. He's an extremist on the total opposite totem pole of how Ben and his family is. And I'm looking at it from like a societal structure, right? Yeah, Ben's family in the way that I described them, and now you have Patty on the opposite side of the spectrum. And of course, you can get a little more extreme with Ben's side, but it's perfect the way it is. And you have Patty's side, which is very extremist, very isolationist. He so much so where he's in his own fantasy land in his head with how the world is. He acts like a god himself. He takes it upon his own will to do these things to these families because he likes the hunt, and he's just crazy. He due to the things that he did. And another key point of that is due to how he was raised and how his parents were. He didn't feel love. And when he describes how you either become your parents or the opposite, it seemed like he didn't want to become like his parents, but in reality, he became like them and worse. You know, he took upon the anger and the zero amounts of love, and he manifested it and then put it out into the world in the whichever way that he seen fit. Obviously, he's not very happy about his parents, but in fact, actually kind of went down the same route and actually became more monstrous than his parents. You know, way more monstrous than his parents.
Yeah.
So you have two opposite sides of the coin. One's an extremist isolationist who's completely psycho, and the other, a normal family in today's society that, in which you see the gender roles being mixed and mashed, and it's not very polar. It's kind of all mixed up, and which is also is an essential reason why they're having these marriage issues. You know, Ben is depressed. He just can't have a job. She has a job. He doesn't have a job, and I that's what I really liked about this movie. Apart from it being pretty easy to follow, there is a really healthy amount of metaphorical dialogue and insinuations here that really goes to show some idiosyncrasies in comparison to modern society, both in Ben's area and both in Patty's area. And that's not to say that every isolationist or every, person who is, more on the side of having a homestead, having their own land, having their home on their own land, being isolated from society. It doesn't go to say that all those people are extremists and are crazy and want to shoot anybody that they want and hunt whoever they want and have this godlike persona. Just like how, Ben's family isn't like every other family in society, but it goes to show that I would say that Ben's side of things is happening more often than the extremist side that Patty is. Obviously, I think it's very easy to say that in today's society we see Ben's family unit occurring much more than the Patty side of things. And I think those two really help each other in a film like this. And it does show a lot about today's society. We're so focused and relying on technology. Agnes has this anxiety and emotional, insecurity where, she has this deep anxiety. And when it comes to today's society, it's the phone use, it's the technology, which makes kids more angsty and more anxious to begin with. And with Ben's family, we see
super dependent on her doll.
Yeah, super dependent on her doll.
Puppy.
And the app on her phone, which allows her to breathe properly and to calm down. One family is reliant on what society and culture brings them. In fact, so much so where it causes issues with their own mental health and their
handicaps them.
Yeah, handicaps them and hinders the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happens with Patty's side. It hinders them as well and their way of life. So it shows both sides of the coin. With both of these families were shown. And it shows the extremes on both sides to a degree. Obviously, one side is much more extreme when it comes to what's actually happening. But with Ben's family, it also is sort of an extreme when you think about how destabilized the family unit in today's society is, especially in the West. And how, the man and the female elements are now compared to, let's just say, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's my spiel. And that's really what I get out of the film in its entirety. And that's like the majority of the metaphorical instances that I found. And that's why I liked it so much. Because it shows a lot about today's society while also taking it to an extreme. I mean that you kind of need that in a film like this.
That's a good commentary on that.
Indeed. So I have a little bit of fun facts. There's not much.
Cool.
James McAvoy stated that he purposefully did not watch the original Danish Speak No Evil from 2022 because before he started to work on this remake, so that it wouldn't influence the interpretation of his role. He watched the original within 24 hours after filming was concluded, and he was very impressed.
Nice.
Yep.
I like that.
Me too. It was filmed mainly in Gloucester, UK, and 1 week of filming in Croatia. It With only 5 days left of filming, production was shut down in July 2023 due to the writer and actor strikes. Filming resumed in November. Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy previously worked together on the series Halt and Catch Fire, so they have some sort of relationship there. As we stated before, director James Watkins is known in the horror genre for writing and directing Eden Lake, which I want to watch, and The Woman in Black, which I will watch as well. This is actually the second horror remake for Mackenzie Davis, and she was previously in The Turning, which is in 2020.
That's a remake?
I think that's what it's saying.
If that's what it's saying, dude, The Turning sucked ass. So bad.
It doesn't look good. I remember this.
It was balls.
I remember this now.
It was balls.
It did not look good.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I saw that with someone and I was just like, what the fuck is even happening? They didn't even know what the fuck was happening.
So this is
The
the
only
last.
thing,
Go ahead.
people were going to that movie to hook up. Because there's people having legit sex, like in the back row, in the back right corner of the room. You could literally hear, like, the sound
Oh, really?
of it. You could hear, like, the...
Yeah.
But, like, because the movie is so bad that there were such long pauses of silence that, like, in the film itself and just from the audience, that these people over here are like, oh, it's a scary movie. People will be screaming. It's going to be loud. It's like, boom. No. Fucking boring fucking film. Mackenzie was great, but it was just so dead, and like everybody in the audience was just like, when is this gonna end? And meanwhile, you got two teens in the back, or two like young adults just fucking going at it like rabbits, and they got caught obviously, but it was just that was the only entertaining part of that film, was seeing two people get caught doing it.
They got caught.
They got caught and they got walked out with flashlight.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at least they, were taken out of the film.
Yeah, they got taken out.
So last trivia that I have, a little fun fact, and I think this is hilarious. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, I love McAvoy as an actor. I really do. I know nothing about how he is as a person. But
The reason he's fighting people.
Huh?
He said if he drinks two shots of whiskey, like two full like shots of whiskey, he's gonna start fighting people. He gets very like violent apparently.
Okay.
It's from his own mouth.
Isn't he Scottish?
I think so.
So, in a 2024 interview with Empire magazine, James McAvoy said that he modeled the toxic masculinity of his character in Speak No Evil after Andrew Tate, the far-right social media personality and influencer whose philosophy has been widely condemned as misogynistic. And I thought this was hilarious because I did not see anything resemblant of Andrew Tate in his character at all. I have watched a lot of Andrew Tate stuff because the guy is funny. As a person, I do not agree with a lot of the things that he says. But in this life, we have to have discernment. We can laugh at something that's funny, but we don't have to, take the lightness of a person who's very imperfect, just like we all are, who has said a lot of bad things, but has also said a lot of funny things. And I've seen a lot of Andrew Tate content, and I can say with confidence that I did not see Andrew Tate in this character at all. Especially nowadays, the modern Tate that we see, he's much more comedic and laid back, and he kind of just goes to show that his personality that he showed like back 4-6 years ago was all for play. Even if it wasn't all for play, you can maybe see it if he did beat women. You could see that in McAvoy's character, but that was more in the story that was written. That wasn't McAvoy in the movie making decisions, with the story. Yeah. To resemble Tate, he just allegedly took Tate's likeness and his personality into this character. But I thought it was hilarious because it's ironic, but at the same time not surprising for a Hollywood actor to say something like this and to go with the narrative, as IMDb states.
I didn't see that. Yeah, I didn't see that either.
And even the way they describe it here, real quick, it's modeled the toxic masculinity, 1, the far right social media personality, 2, whose philosophy has been widely condemned and misogynistic, 3. Those are just 3 big points that you hear in the media all the time.
Yeah. And, I am not one who's watched a lot of Andrew Tate, as opposed to Jacob. I've seen things here and there, and I've, indulged a little bit. just to be like, just to like see if what they're saying about him is something like, let's say he's quoted in like an article or something that's like really fucked up quote. Like, did he actually say that? And I'll go and see if he actually said it, and I'll watch it, and I'll be like, okay, he might have said something along those lines, but he didn't actually say that. But even watching the movie, like I didn't see that like persona. I didn't see any like like a full resemblance to him at all. And
Even
then there was no point
elements.
in film. There's no point in the film where I was like, that kind of reminds me of Andrew Tate.
Right.
There's never once like
And I
I
heard
was.
this before too. Like before I even saw the movie, I heard this and I forgot about it, and then I was reminded of it back
Mm,
when I read the trivia, the fun facts when I was doing my notes. And I completely
gotcha.
forgot about it, and even like you said, I wasn't watching at all and thinking like, oh, this kind of resembles Andrew Tate.
Cause like if he would have popped out like a cigar, or like a fucking
Right.
put on sunglasses while he's sitting inside, or fucking would have walked around with his shirt off like a majority of the time, been like looked at Ben and be like, "Where's your Bugatti?" I'm
Or
like,
he's like, oh,
okay.
you guys with your Teslas and your vapes.
No, cause
Doesn't even say
he
that.
is the one who likes having like all the fancy shit in life.
Yeah.
So like it's the kind of like an opposite he's
In a
playing
sense, yeah.
in a sense. So it's like um
That,
'cause like
yeah.
it's like those other movies, what the fuck was it? There's a movie where there was a president, or there was like a political figure, a leader figure, and they're like, oh yeah, I based this character, a lot of the actions and like mannerisms off Trump because he's like this kind of guy, and he's like this kind of person.
Right.
And it's like you could very clearly see that with the character because they weren't just like doing little bits of things. They were literally like impersonating Trump to like a good degree. Um, but for this film, no, I didn't really see the Tate resemblance at all. I didn't really see any mannerisms or anything like that. Um, like Jacob, also, I don't fully agree with anything Tate has ever said. I don't share same beliefs. I think he's a funny guy on occasion. Like the fucking if someone were to come into this restaurant right now and try to kill all of us, I take them all out. Bam, bam, bam. I'm like fucking
Yeah, like that. There's funny things that he says, and everybody in the world, no matter how wrong or right they are, they can say one thing that is of truth. But even if you agree with something that is blatantly true, it doesn't make you an instant believer or advocate for that person. Just because you
ooh.
see them as funny when they say something doesn't mean you're instantly an advocate for that person.
That reminds me that coming back full circle to the thing I brought up earlier with Star Wars, the Acolyte, the lead actress for the Acolyte, she went on a very calm spoken rant saying when the show was canceled, she released a video of her doing her hair, and she's basically called anybody who did not like the show and blamed this blamed the people who did not like the show and the reason it was canceled. She labeled them all as far right bigots, racist, and like all
Misogynist?
that stuff, and misogynist and all that stuff, sexist and stuff like that. She didn't. I'm not paraphrasing but a couple of those words did come out of her mouth.
Right.
If this does pick up any traction at all, but and I'm not saying she screamed or she was angry, but she very calmly, very directly labeled a majority of people who people who just didn't like the show, who didn't put time into watching it. She labeled them as that. And
All these people
as
who are
people
just
as
big
people
Star
who
Wars
know Star
fans.
Wars,
Yeah.
as people who know Star Wars, like we're fans of Star Wars, the number one thing, the reason we don't watch something, whether it's like a person of color or not, if the story's not good, we're not gonna entertain it. We're not gonna sit there and hope it gets better.
Oh, yeah.
We might, but the majority of the time, as of late, Star Wars is nothing but let us down the majority of the time when it comes to good stories. Like Mandalorian was great, and to completely destroy that whole accusation of racism amongst the people who didn't like it. We love the Mandalorian. The Force Awakens would have been better if Finn had become a Jedi.
And
That trilogy would have been better.
if Ray couldn't just magically fly the Millennium Falcon.
Well, I mean, like if they would have taken the
I know what you're
whole,
saying.
like if Finn would have become like a lead to more of a lead to a degree with just becoming a stormtrooper to a potential Jedi,
Right.
I would have fucking loved that.
Right.
Um, what else?
There's something
Fucking
I've got to tell you.
the Ahsoka series, phenomenal. I thought that was great. Um,
Had a
The
lot of good
Book of Boba
moments.
Fett was okay.
It's
Wasn't
okay.
bad. I still had a fun time.
Yep.
But like overall, it's just like you can't like if your show is canceled and it doesn't do well and you don't clearly understand or see why that happened, don't just talk out your ass because you have a like a tier, like you have some kind of status, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Get your facts straight. Look at the real reasons why your show might have been canceled. Accept that. Take some time to accept that and then address it. Don't just get hurt because you think of something and you're like, oh, let me just talk emotionally. And not just saying that's women, it could be men too. And say, oh, the reason why we didn't do well is because everybody who didn't like it is a racist or a bigot or alt right or far right or whatever the fuck it is. And like, you're
Yeah.
just not helping your own career. You're not helping the community of Star Wars in itself. If anything, you're painting it. You're the reason people are saying Star Wars fans are toxic. You're giving more of an argument to those people who say that. You're painting all of us in a negative light who actually are truly dedicated fans and care about this. You
Adding
know,
on to
and
that, the Acolytes cast is one of the most unknowledgeable Star Wars people in the franchise thus far. So many of
yeah.
them have no idea about Star Wars and don't even know the actors' names or the characters' names or who's who derived from what, who came from where.
The only one I'll defend on my life, I will take a bullet for this woman slash I think she's in her 20s now. I can't remember how old she is Daphne fucking Keene, X-23. Cause there was multiple interviews where she'll straight up list like actors' names, character names, talk about the story. She'll correct people in interviews, who are talking about it. She'll be like, no, no, that's not right. This is how it happened. This is who that character was. This is what it is. And it's just like that is who we need in these shows and writing these shows. Is people like her who give a shit and actually know the source material to a degree, you know? So Jacob's right though. A lot of the people in the show did not know about it. A lot of the writers didn't know about it, and that's just blatantly from proof and evidence put out there and published. They brought people on who did not know about it, did not have any prior knowledge, and they said we're gonna create a show that's different.
There's no good. There's no evil. There's no light side. There's no dark side. I'm like, nah, there really is. There, it's
Yeah,
very relevant that there is a light
yeah.
side and a dark side, and you don't even have to go back to George Lucas saying it himself. It's
And
in the
what's
movies. You could just watch
yeah,
them.
and what the saddest part of it was is that I'm pretty sure Daphne Keene's, no, sorry, her character is one of the coolest characters to come out, and she's never going to be seen again in Star Wars because of how the show handles her character.
You never know.
And
Maybe they could throw her in there somewhere. I don't know. Who
she
knows?
got freaking mauled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she got mauled. But I, for one, will say her character was dope for the short time she was in the show, and all the other characters, great action sequences. I will say that great action sequences, but some of the stuff felt weird for Star Wars. Aside from that, this is I'm gonna drop off the Star Wars right now because we're talking about Speak No Evil, but all of that stuff and the agendas and the narratives kind of just comes all together with that, and yeah,
I get
that's
it.
all.
I get it, brother. 100% get it.
It's just frustrating, you know.
You can't, yeah, very much so, especially on a franchise that you grew up with and love. I mean, how could you not be at least a little bit frustrated if you grew up with these things and you learned about them and you educate yourself with them, and here comes people who don't even know what the hell they're talking about, and here comes people who are just giving narratives and agendas, either because they were told to say it or they say it themselves and they believe it themselves, just like
Yeah.
McAvoy stating that he modeled the toxic masculinity of his character and Speak No Evil after Andrew Tate, the quote far right social media personality and influencer whose philosophy has been widely condemned as misogynistic. It's funny. That's laughable. I find it really funny, but I'm not surprised. So that's it for this review. I am going to give this an easy 3.5, primarily just because of, really what I said at the end in terms of all the metaphorical levels. And there's not a lot of them, but there's enough to where this movie packs a punch both on screen and off screen, both within the cinematic experience and also looking at it from a metaphorical standpoint. It provides enough for it to be very interesting and fun. The acting was great. Again, Ben's character just annoyed the hell out of me, but that's just because the way that he acted and the way that the writing was great. And it was just a solid film that I could easily go back and watch and have a good time in. And I could watch McAvoy play these type of characters all day, every day, because he thrives in these roles. And he's great in rom-coms. He's great in any other movie. But, there's some actors who just do really well as a villain. And he can do both. But even as a villain, I think, in my personal opinion, he shines the most in these kind of characters, just like he did with Split. He's just on it when it comes to these kind of roles, man. And
He was killing it.
I really love James McAvoy. And like I said, even the kids acted well. Everybody acted well. The kids sold their roles very well. Ant's character, even though he didn't talk, he played himself efficiently.
Amazing.
Yeah. Agnes was very good at her acting. She sold her performance well. And like I said, I was impressed by the both of them. Every single actor and actress in this film did just fine. Even the chef. I'll give the chef the least benefit of the doubt because we don't really hear him talk too much. But I don't know, man. This is an easy 3.5. Not necessarily a 4. And maybe I'll look back on it and give it a 4. But as of right now, it's a very healthy 3.5. Very healthy 3.5.
I think I'll stick with a 3.5 as well. Well, I agree with a lot of the same points, honestly.
Cool. So if you don't know, so far we have a rating system. We have a little tier list that we put our horror movies on. The bottom tier, the lowest tier, we have Salt and Burn It. Shout out to our Supernatural fans out there. Next is Straight to the Grave. Next is So Bad It's Good. Then Put It on a Shirt. After that, Scarred for Life. At the top tier list is Therapy Required. I am going to give this an easy Put It on a Shirt because I can easily put James McAvoy's face creeping through the door with his hands just like this and with gritting his teeth. I could put that on a shirt. I could put Speak No Evil on the front and on the breast and on the back. I just have James McAvoy's face, and I would wear that shirt. And I don't think it's necessarily to the point where there's Scarred for Life. I don't think it has those elements at all, but I think it's easily put on a shirt.
I'm gonna say put on a shirt too then. Just it's in the middle. It's not too much, not too little. It's just right amount.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
It's good balance. It's well balanced meal.
I agree. And this is really my apologies. This going back to the movie, it is classified as a horror. Also as a psychological thriller, psychological horror, and a psychological drama. So this does fit the horror category. We still have not reviewed a movie that is not a horror movie, and I don't care. We're doing these reviews, and we want to do what we want to do, and that's going to allow us to have fun. And if we have fun, hopefully you guys could have fun with us. And if you have any recommendations for any horror or non-horror movies that you want to have us review, let us know in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe. Nick, any finishing thoughts?
Go out to your local theater, support original films. We know there's a lot of sequels, prequels, and
Remakes
reboots coming out, remakes. But go out there, see a movie you don't even recognize. You might like it. We need more original movies coming out. Speak No Evil is a remake. So, that doesn't technically go with this, but let's go out there and support our filmmakers. Let's go out there and support our industry, and let's go support movie theaters. Because streaming sucks. They're turning it into cable, and soon we're gonna all be paying $60 to $100 a year, maybe more,
a month,
just to skip ads and watch stuff we could have saw in theaters without ads.
Yeah, I would say a month, hundreds of dollars a month, depending on how many
Month.
scripts you subscribe to, and depending on what
That's
kind of
true.
tier, what kind of tier you want to subscribe to.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, bye, Nick. This has been Based on Cinema. We'll see you on the next one. Hope you guys have a great day.
Have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.